welcome to Wheellifeconnections, our next episode. I'm so excited to have our guest here today. This is my good friend, Angie Miller. She is also from Jacksonville, Florida. She actually got to meet me the year I gave up my reign as Miss Wheelchair Florida in 2016 when she ran for Miss Wheelchair Florida 2016. So it was great meeting her there. We've been friends ever since. She is a disability advocate here in our community. She does a lot of work with our Center for Independent Living, but I'll let her tell you more about that. But Angie, thank you so much for joining us on Wheellifeconnections today.
Thank you for having me, Sarah. It's definitely an honor to
Yeah,
be here.
absolutely. We're really excited to have you just to learn a little bit about what you do in the community and how your disability impacts your life and things like that. So if we could get started, Angie, tell me a little bit about yourself.
Okay, so my name is Angie Miller, and I'm originally from Nashville, Tennessee. I was born on July the 26th, 1978, and that's important because, as you know, the ADA was signed into law on July the 26th. So it was kind of cool to be an ADA baby, and it was like I was birthed to be an advocate.
That's
Kind of
awesome.
fun. So I have three other brothers that I was raised with, and I also have two additional step siblings that I gained when my mom married my stepdad when my dad passed away. I am someone who was raised in a very traditional Christian Catholic home. So we were always taught to treat our brothers and sisters with respect and with dignity. And I think, and always like my big thing is, regardless of my disability, fighting for the underdog or helping people bring out the best in themselves. So obviously, and when you're young, you don't realize that there's anything different about you. And my brothers and those around me never treated me any differently. So I mean, it was like, and as a person with a disability, Sarah, you don't, it's not like you feel any different. You
Right.
just kind of experience life um and you know go through things and adapt in whatever way you have to experience everyday experiences. And so I guess it was basically, so at home we used a lot of like laughter and stuff when people like stared at me, or when people um when I did recognize my difference. Okay, because there's a time when everybody recognizes their difference.
Right.
And for me, my disability is cerebral palsy, which is brain damage at birth. That for me was caused at birth. It can be caused anytime there's a lack of oxygen to the brain. So if you're in a car accident, or if you have a stroke or something like that, anytime there's a lack of oxygen, it can happen. But so um, my parents, just the way that we handled things was, we just went along our merry way and laughed things out and had a great time. I think, and that really was something that helped me, because then when I got older and some things like bullying and stuff like that started to happen in my life that was associated with those kind of things, um, it helped me to realize that sometimes other people, which, by the way, the bullying thing happened a lot during middle elementary school and middle school. And I think primarily that's because people of that age don't even know how to handle themselves, much less know how to deal with someone who is physically different. Um, so and definitely during middle school anyway, because you're dealing with like hormones of being a person who is 13 years old and whatever, and then you're dealing with a disability. That was a hard years in life, but we made it.
That's right. I think I can second that. I hated middle school, and that was just personally, I hated middle school. It was a
Yeah,
bad time to be a female, and it was awful.
yeah,
Uh, so, well, that's
exactly.
good, and it's good to hear kind of that your family took the approach of laughter, because I'm always not sure if it's okay to be like, well, my family, we just laugh, or like if somebody's staring at me, when I was little, I used to just stick my tongue out. Like I wasn't a very
Yeah,
polite little girl, but that's just kind of how life was. And because of the years where you were born and because of the years I was born, that's
yeah,
20, 30 years ago, times
yeah,
have really changed. And back then it wasn't that they saw somebody like us every single day. So it was really something totally out of this world, and they weren't really sure what to expect, and so it was something new, it was something different, and it was something that they were like, what is that, and so that's just kind of how it was and how we grew up. But it's really cool that you share a birthday with the ADA. I think that's awesome.
yeah. That's a pretty cool thing.
It is pretty cool. So I want to talk a little bit about your CP. I know you were born with cerebral palsy. We kind of already talked about that.
Mhm.
Do you fully get around with a wheelchair, or what kind of devices do you use to get around?
Okay, so I started out using a manual wheelchair when I was younger, and I used it all the way up to when I went to college. But then once I got onto the college campus, it was like stamina issues. It was just not efficient for me to do that
Right.
because pushing from class to class, by the time I got to the class, I was like, you know, and like, how am I supposed to take in the lecture and all that kind of stuff? So it was at that point that we kind of looked into the wheelchair, and now I even use things like drag and dictate on my
Okay.
computer in my work environment just because that's more efficient. I think one of the things that is important for us to remember as people with disabilities um, is that we is stamina management. So you have to choose where you place your energy
Mhm.
because you only have so much. No matter what the disability is, we only have so much energy that and as you know, it requires extra energy to do almost anything. So, and once you're out, you're out. You're just done.
Right.
So you have to be very picky and choosy about where you put your energy. And I think that for me personally, I found that goes even towards, keeping a positive attitude and what
Right.
you choose to let upset you and that kind of thing too. Um, so,
Yeah.
and I think that's why I was so eager to come on your show, because I think it's so important that we create a bridge between the disabled and the able-bodied um, world
Right.
because we're all living here together
Mhm.
and we all bring something incredibly wonderful to the world that we live in.
Right.
And instead of looking at each other and seeing like weakness and strength and whatever, we need to begin to see like each other's hearts
Right.
and that kind of thing. And for me personally, my personal goal is to be able to live in a world and I have two nieces who I love immensely. One is 3 and one is 10. And I want them to live in a world where disability is just part of the conversation.
Mhm.
Like, like what's your eye color? Or, I like this type of music or whatever. I want it to be that kind of conversation. And, um, so that's my goal is to um, make people realize because when people in their effort to like connect with us when they use words like you're so normal or when they use statements like that, I'm like, okay, what does normal look like exactly?
Yeah.
Because I don't think any of us like really looks normal or and and I think one time I was watching an episode that you did with Jessica Hawk, and
Uh-huh.
you guys were talking about how um, e- is- you like being pretty, right? The fact that regardless of having a disability or not having a disability, and you were even having a conversation about how the Miss Wheelchair of Florida organization doesn't like for you to say that it's a beauty pageant,
Right.
right? Well, okay, but we, but it is, it should be, we should be encouraged to be our very, very best.
Right.
And if you, if, you know, and if that's what you have to offer, then that's what you have to offer, you know? And I don't think that we should be like, I don't know, uh, I won't say dumbed down, but I don't think that taking that aspect out of the competition makes it any easier for anybody, you
Right.
know?
Right. It almost makes it feel a little bit more secluded, in my opinion, because
Right.
you go on to win this title, right? And you have a sash and you have a tiara,
Mm-hmm.
but with that comes your appearance and how well you hold yourself and how well you feel about yourself. And it's so important to have self confidence. And sometimes it takes putting on a little bit of lipstick or putting on a little
Right.
bit of blush. And every woman has the right to learn how to do that. And
Right.
so beauty is beauty. I mean, you can be beautiful and you don't have to wear any makeup, but if you want to, you should
Right.
absolutely be able to, and you should
Right.
absolutely be
Exactly.
able to be taught, you know?
There are many aspects of beauty, okay? There
Mhm.
are many, many, many aspects of beauty. And I
Absolutely.
don't think any one of them should be underestimated for
Right.
anyone. So I think that whatever one has that they can do to strengthen who they are as an individual, feel more confident, feel more, you know, that they have something more to offer, that kind of thing, then they should have the opportunity to do that, and they should have the opportunity to feel like they're excelling, okay,
Right.
whether it be in a beauty competition or something else. Because one of the things that I struggle with sometimes as a person with a disability is that we are not not we're told all the time we can't excel,
Mhm.
and we're given things, we're given restrictions, whether that be how much we can make, whether that be I don't think he'd be capable, I mean, attitudinal barriers, whatever that is, there's all of this restriction.
Mhm.
And I think my biggest is, well, actually, you and I, our biggest responsibility as individuals with disabilities is to be a good role model to
Right.
others with disabilities. And part of that, and this is part of what I love about my job um, at the Center for Independent Living. If you need us, I will give you the information at the end of the show. But and this is not a commercial, I promise. But what I think. What was I saying? Hold on. What I'm saying is we have a responsibility to be good role models because we
Mhm.
haven't had those things in the media. We haven't had, so anyone who is able to be confident and positive and all those things and help someone to cultivate their inner voice, I
Mhm.
think that's what we all, those of us who are advocates, that's what our biggest job is to help individuals recognize what their voice sounds like and
Right.
how to use it effectively.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. And I don't think it matters the age of the person
Mm-hmm.
either.
Nope.
It can
Mm-hmm.
start when they're really young,
Mm-hmm.
or it can start when they're older because disabilities happen all the time and they can
Right.
happen
Mm-hmm.
at any age. So it's just
Mm-hmm.
about finding yourself and who you truly are and what your purpose here is, while you're here on earth. Because we all have a purpose that we have to live out. It's just figuring out what that is and how we can make the best of it.
Right. And I think the awesome thing about the fact that and because I'm a Christian, I'm going to bring it to God. The fact that we do serve an amazing God, is that He made us all so individualized. with such individualized gifts. And so that means there's not one of us that's exactly the same.
Exactly.
And that gives us the opportunity, if we do not have a certain skill set or whatever, to be able to rely on others and connect with others. And I think, you know, like I said, my biggest thing, especially now, is to make people realize that having a disability is not a weakness. Actually, it's a strength. And for those of you that don't know, which I know you already know, but for those of you who don't know, there's a great history behind the independent living movement has a great history with some amazing people who've done great things to make sure that we have what the same rights as everyone else.
Yeah,
Now,
absolutely.
here's my struggle though. I feel like sometimes, and this is just like total transparency, I feel like sometimes as just as a member in the community, people with disabilities want to use the law as a weapon, like not use it to equalize something, but use it as, don't you see? You should give me something special, which is not what the law was intended to do. It
Right.
really was not. And so sometimes I fight, try in a loving way, trying to educate people that, this is not what the law is intended to do. You
Right.
don't want to be treated special. You want to be treated the same,
Right.
something quite different.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's a matter for somebody who calls themselves a disability advocate, which I
Mm-hmm,
know you do and I do as well, is
mm-hmm,
that when we go through a struggle, we don't fight just for us. We fight for change for the next person who's going to go through the
mm-hmm.
same struggle, because if it's already going to happen one way, then we want the next time it happens to at least be a little better. And then the next time after that to be even better and even better
Mm-hmm.
after that, right? Because it's
Yeah,
not about just
exactly.
getting what we need, it's about getting what we need and then showing the
Mm,
community that what we need is what others need as well. So let's
right,
work together to get this equally, available for everybody. And I think
right.
that's really important. There's a lot of disability advocates, and I'm not, going against anybody in the disability community, but there are a lot of disability advocates who aren't quite disability advocates in my terms. And it kind
Right.
of breaks my heart because it's really hard to fight for something when you fight alone. And we're meant to fight together, right?
Mhm.
And for a bigger cause and for a better cause than just for our own well-being. And so I think that's definitely an issue in the disability community that could really be worked on, but it takes more of us talking about it.
Right. And I think like because that's the one thing that I love so much about the independent living movement, which is that they focus very much about it being cross disability based, but then in within the community, like we're talking, you find, okay, well the people that are visually impaired hang out with their group of people, and all that kind of stuff. And but if you look at things, if you look at history, we're all facing the same, we're
Right.
still facing the same issues: transportation, housing, um, good health care, access to health care, access to recreation or the kind of life that we want to live on our own terms, that kind of thing. We are all facing the same struggles.
Right.
So why are we making it like my group is, you know, it's crazy to me.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think talking about that, it made me think about the group that you run that I'm a part of,
Mm-hmm.
here in Jacksonville, and that's a very integrated peer-to-peer group of a lot of individuals with varying disabilities, right? And so
Mm-hmm.
the fact that you built this peer-to-peer group through the SIL to be able to work together within Jacksonville for change, it's amazing because there's things that people who, are visually impaired or those with mental illness, I don't know what they go through because I'm physically disabled, right?
Right.
And so I love being able to learn, this is how I can fight for you. This is how I can fight for you. And on some cases, I'm fighting for this, but it actually impacts you, you, and you. And
Right.
we're all working for the
Exactly.
same cause, right? And I think that's amazing. But it's very hard when you kind of get stuck in that clique I can call it a clique because I don't know if those
Yeah.
exist anymore, but a clique of your,
Mhm.
the same type of people that you like to hang out with or you feel
Mhm.
like you connect with. And I think the one place I really learned for me where that difference was when I went on to Miss Wheelchair America, because that was, I don't know, 20 to 30 women from all across the country. We were all in wheelchairs, but we were
Mhm.
all so different. But we
Right.
all could connect on the same challenges, the same obstacles. We just overcame them different ways. And so it
Right.
really opens your mind to see, like, we're not in this alone
Mhm.
ever. It's just a matter of opening up and speaking and having a voice, like you said.
Right. And I think the one thing that I would say that um, I feel like, as crazy as it might sound to some, I look at my disability as a strength, very
Right.
much a strength, because it makes me resilient. It makes me critical thinking. It makes me um, it, it helps me to see past trivial things and
Mm-hmm.
see what's truly important.
Right.
And really, to me, it's like a helps me with the quickness understand whether I really want to be around somebody or not. Because if you're not going to respect somebody as a human being,
Mm-hmm.
because we're just breaking it down, we're just talking about human to human being, okay? Because and that's another thing, because of disability, my disability, I'm very open-minded and I'm very, accepting of a lot of different things. And I'm not sure that I would necessarily be that way if it wasn't for the group of challenges that I've been given. Um, so, so would I give that up? No. Now, here's another thing that I want to say or bring up, is that there's so many things like dating or just certain things that are taboo within our community,
Right.
just because people don't know how to talk about it, or there's not a good platform to talk about it, or whatever. And it's like, really? We got to change that, only because the only way that we can make change is to be the change,
Exactly.
right?
Exactly. Yeah. Absolutely.
So,
And I don't think dating is easy at all. It's not easy for anybody,
no, not for
obviously.
anybody.
But there are definitely more challenges
Hmm.
for a person with a disability than the able-bodied community when it comes to dating and things like that, right? And so I know you have already brought it to my attention. So we're definitely going to do a Wheel Life Connection segment on dating and
Yeah,
relationships.
yeah.
So if anybody watches this and sees this, we are looking for a few more people to add to our roundtable. And I do have a couple individuals already who want to speak about it, but I definitely think it's something that needs to be talked about, and it needs to be individuals who are open to being vulnerable, because if we don't actually open up and give the true feeling of what it's like, there's not going to be any change, right? Because we're going to
Mhm.
just hide behind small little comments, and we want to really dig deep about what that looks like for us. I mean, we are young adults, right? In
Right,
that age
exactly.
where we want to have a relationship or a family as well, and we have the right to
Mhm.
have that. It's just a lot harder. And so, how do we navigate that together as
Yeah.
an
How do
individual?
you, just what do you say? How much do you say? How do you make the person feel more comfortable?
Right.
I wanted to also say, which I'm sure Sarah is very sensitive about, we definitely want to make sure that it's a very you know, um, we want people with all different kinds of disabilities to be
Right.
a part of this group, so that we can get all perspectives. We want male, we want female, we want,
Yeah, exactly.
wherever you're coming from, whatever, whatever your beliefs are, any of that. We're very open to all of that. But I think one of the things also that you, because Sarah was nice enough to give me some questions to look over today, but you asked me what was one thing that I feel, well, there's a couple. The one thing that I wish that people that were able-bodied did not do,
Correct.
and the one thing that I would say is, number one, don't talk down. Never talk down to to me. Don't talk like I'm 2 years old, not in a doctor's office, not in a, especially in, not that it happens so much in a professional settings anymore, but sometimes it does. And I realize that it's coming from a very genuine place in whatever, because you don't understand, a place of misunderstanding. But at the same time, it's like, come on now. Really. And I think that we have and that kind of moves me into a different, and I'll share a story for you. It moves me into a different section, and that is accessibility in doctor's offices. Okay. And the reason I bring that up is because one time I went into a doctor's office, which this just happens to be the platform that I was running on for Miss Wheelchair Florida when I ran. Um, and and it was, I just want accessible offices. I want to be able to go inside with my wheelchair, or I want my family member who has autism to be able to feel comfortable um, in the doctor's office, or whoever, or if I have a loved one who needs sign language, that those things would be accessible to them as well. You know, it's surprising to me how many doctors don't know um, really about different types of, I mean, like, they are educated people. It's not like they're not. But I think sometimes that they're so focused on, like, people that acquire disabilities sometimes. And okay, like, I'm going to get her to the chair so she's mobile, or him, or whatever, after accidents and stuff. But from our perspective, from people that are born with disabilities perspective, what if I have a health issue that's above and beyond the disability? What if I have a heart issue? What if I have, I don't know, endometriosis as a woman, or something like that, and I'm not able to get the testing that I need to get because things aren't accessible to me.
Right.
And and that's male or female. I mean, um, I'm sure you've experienced not being able to get up on a table by yourself, or and one time I went to get to a female visit, and I told them I made my visit like a month prior, and I told them I'd be coming and all of that. And she said, okay, and I scheduled it, whatever. So the day of, I get there, and that's when they told me they didn't have an accessible table, that I would have to go to a different office. So I don't have a problem with going to a different office,
Right.
but share with me when you talk to me initially, okay, the office that has that equipment that you're going to need is here. So we need to make your appointment here.
Right.
So that you don't, or what, so there are really simple little things like that we could do, that could really improve interactions with, um, within the healthcare environment. And when you're in that kind of situation, you don't, like, I don't know about you, but I wouldn't always want my caregiver, if it's not somebody I'm really, really close to know my medical business.
Right.
Like, if you're just hiring them through an agency, and it's the first time they've come with you, and you go to a doctor's visit and you find out something pretty huge, then
Right.
that kind of thing, it's just stuff to think about. I mean, so actually, I'm still working on it with myself, trying to find a way that we can continue to educate.
Right.
And I think even, as simple as coming up with a list in Jacksonville of the doctors that have accessible facilities, so that people are aware of where to go and that kind of thing, making things a bit easier. My center has done a whole lot with making people aware of the need for sign language interpreters and being a good resource for that. But when I went to Miss Wheelchair Florida and Miss Liz Perkins, do you remember her? I don't know. She gave a talk because she's a nurse that what do you call that kind of amputee? She congenital, right? I think that's the name for it. But anyway, she has a smaller arm on one side. And so she was talking about her journey through medical school and all of that. And she was saying that talking about some of the attitudinal barriers and stuff that she came up against and was talking about the fact that doctors are not required to come in contact with individuals as a part of their medical training with disabilities. Okay, so you're going to hit these people. I mean, it's fine that you look it up in a book, but it's very different to look it up in a book and have book knowledge and have to look at a person and go,
Right.
okay, what the heck do I do? I mean, because every body is different, and your disability manifests differently, just like your body manifests differently.
Right. Right.
So my point in all of that is to say, listen, guys, be your own medical advocate whenever you can. Educate yourself as much as you can. Be prepared when you go into any kind of situation like that to speak up for yourself. Tell your doctors what you need, and don't be afraid of that. You know, we have to create an environment where we don't have higher levels of cancer and all these other things just because we cannot physically make it to
Right.
the training. There's got to be a better way to do that. So, um, so that's all I got to say about that.
That was a really good point. That's something we haven't touched on any of my interviews yet, is kind of the medical side and what that looks like and what accessible healthcare looks like and what accommodations in a doctor's office can and can't be and things like that. And so it's a really interesting topic to kind of bring to discussion because a lot of people think, oh, you're going to a doctor's office like they know everything about you. And they really don't. Even my doctor, he's phenomenal. And he's fighting so hard for me to get this wheelchair because I still haven't gotten it. And I've gotten denied so many
Oh my
times.
Lord.
But
We got to get your wheelchair.
one day, this one's falling apart literally as we speak.
Yeah,
That
that's
he
what I'm
has no
saying.
idea about arthrogryposis, and that's what I have. And
Right.
so I have to be knowledgeable enough to give him enough information so that he can then go and
Exactly.
research on his own to then figure out what underlying conditions could be, what potential risk factors I have, how I can
Right.
move, how I can't move, why certain parts of my wheelchair are so important, why certain of other medical devices I'm fighting for are important. And if you don't have a doctor who's willing to fight for you like that and really do the research to figure it out, it becomes something that you really have to push for yourself. And then you have to kind of encourage and continue to push your doctor to do as well. And it's a lot of
Right.
work. And so it's really about knowing who you are and being open to explaining what you have, how it affects your body, how it does this and that, because you really have to be open about those things so that people can learn. Because you're right, doctors don't have to go through training on every single individual
Yeah.
disability. And I mean, they literally can't. It's
There's no way they
humanly
could at this
impossible.
point.
But with each person that comes in, they can continue to learn and grow because they're learning and growing
Right.
in their field anyway, just like all of us are. So I think that's super important to realize.
And I think honestly, to anyone with a disability, or even with any kind of challenge in life, you're the only one. You're the best expert of your own life, so you know how things affect you. You cannot allow any one person to tell you how you are affected because they're not in your skin. They're not in your person. They're not. That's nice. I'm glad you think that, but you know so we all have to, but I also think that there's a difference between like advocating with sugar and vinegar, like, I guess is a way to say it. Like, you can advocate and you can be like, bitter or hurt or whatever, or you can go at it like, I'm going to educate this person so that the next person will get a better understanding, so that the next person that you come in contact with is going to be like, oh, this is so much easier. Thank you for thinking about that, because I don't know who's been around you, but so I think as a person, that's my goal, is to um, bring something to the world every day that's a little different. And I think that's why, and I try to be very involved with able-bodied. I have a mixed group of able-bodied and disabled friends for that reason, because I feel like we need to educate each other. I think I can learn from them, they can learn from me, and soon things like "you're so normal" or "you're so this" just stop happening, because they just my friends now say I don't even see it.
Yeah.
That's where we are. Okay. So, and that's where we should be.
Right.
So, and one of the things that I've done also, and this, I promise you, this is not to toot my own horn, but we have a youth advisory council at our center, and the youth advisory council is there to be a support to the center, and it's a group of young people who are, it's kind of like, we teach them how to advocate, we teach them how to get a sense of themselves, and how to hear their voice, so that they have resources, so that when they have situations like bullying and the other things that we have, each of us who've already gone before them have done, then they have the skill sets to know, regardless of what these people are saying, regardless of what the voices in my head are saying, I just need to slow down and put this back in perspective and know it's okay.
Right.
And know that today, and I want to tell everybody, this is the rule that I live by. You get 48 hours. Okay. When you're having a bad day, you get 48 hours. But by that next day, you should be moved on. Okay. MoveOn.com. I mean, pull up your big girl or boy pants and make it work. Cause you listen, we all got stuff in life. And my disability is no bigger than anyone else's, whatever they struggle with. Okay. Right. So mine is more visible. Yes. Mine is, I definitely need some accommodations to get the life that I want to live.
Right.
But it doesn't mean that my life is any more difficult than your life. And when you feel fresh, and what I want able-bodied people to know is that you feel, and I came to this realization when I was younger. I was like 14 years old, and I'm pointing fingers at my mom, and I'm like, you don't know what it's like to have a disability, blah, 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 blah. And she said to me, yes, Angie, but I do know what it's like to feel frustrated, and it all feels the same. So, and that kind of really struck me, because I was like, from that point forward, I was like, you know what? She's right. We all feel love. We all feel discouragement. And it all feels the same way.
Right.
So, again, we just need a little bit more assistance to do certain things. So maybe the way that we ride a jet ski looks a little different than the way that you ride a jet ski, but the feeling of the wind in your hair is all the same, right? So there. So and so that's my thing, is just to make people know that we are here together, and we should support one another, both communities, able-bodied and disabled people, and not one is better than the other. And we can actually if we're able to get past some of the differences, we
Right.
would be surprised at the absolute beauty that is and diversity that is our community. Miss Duval County. You probably met some amazing people, huh?
I know quite a number of people, that's for
So,
sure. But everybody, you're right. I love the point about, everybody goes through everything. We all go through everything. But the feeling of being mad, the feeling of being angry, the feeling of being sad, it's the same feeling across the board, right? It's just a matter of how you go through
right,
it
it's the
and
same
how you
feeling
come
across
out of
the
it,
board.
right? And so that's what makes each
Right,
one of us
right,
different. And it's not a bad
right.
thing
And
to be
so
different.
you're determined by, mhm, right, it is absolutely not a bad thing to be different.
Mhm.
Actually, it's an awesome thing to be different because personally, I would not want to be a cookie cutter human being. I mean, I want there to be something that makes me stand out.
Right.
Um, in life in general. And I think that there was a question that you put on your sheet about role models, and there's so many people in my life. There's not just one, but I can tell you there are different characteristics of people that I look to as role models, and that is that they are resilient, that they
Mhm.
are able to really kind of problem solve,
Right.
and they are able to make lemonade out of, make lemonade out of lemons. Sometimes add some vodka. Oh, I'm sorry. Have a party. Um, and just I think that the people that can really look at life and see both the good and the bad sides of it as a learning experience and as getting you to the person that you were divinely meant to be.
Right.
Those are the type of people that I want to be around. And the reason I love my job is that in my life is that I have the ability, because of my disability, um, to help people to become the best version of themselves,
Right.
because
Right.
I feel like, in a way, our disability makes people's doors or walls come down because they want to help us,
Right.
right? So that means that there's this opportunity to bridge the gap that
Mhm.
not everybody would have, because people keep their shields up
Right.
all the time. And so they're not always open to that kind of communication and vulnerability, I
Right.
guess. It's
Right.
another level of vulnerability. But
Mhm.
with that, my people with disabilities comes a great challenge, because then we are challenged to be the representation. Remember that we are the representation. So we could be the only person they ever meet with a disability.
Yeah.
Do you want it to be a negative experience?
Exactly.
I mean, it's just a thought.
Yeah, no, that's so true. And that happens, in some places, the impact you make might be 5 seconds, but if you don't
Mhm.
impact in a positive way that you want to make an impact, you can change that person's life and their perspective for the rest of their life. And they're going to
Exactly.
look at it totally different. So it's really a matter of cherishing the seconds that you have with people, whether it's passing
Mhm.
by, saying hello, not saying hello. There's a big difference
Yeah,
in saying, "Hi, how are you?" or looking the other way and walking the other direction. And
exactly.
if somebody's staring at me, for instance, I'm always
Right.
open and being like, hey, it's okay, like you can ask a question if you want, like how are you, it's totally fine. But if I wouldn't do that and I would walk away, they would continue that same behavior, or they would
Right.
get worse
Exactly.
because they're like, oh well, she didn't say anything to me, now I think they don't say anything at all, or they're not very nice. And in that
Right.
3 seconds of interaction, I made that negative impact, and that's not what we want, right? Because the only way
Right.
to make change is we have to make positive impacts if we want to look for positive change. So that's a
Right.
really
Exactly.
good point as well. And I think it's super important to understand that even a common hello is just something so
Right.
simple, but it brings such a comfortable level between a person who has a disability and who doesn't, or two people that do, or two people that don't. It just puts you
Right.
on the same level for three
Mhm.
seconds to kind of get rid of all of the uncomfortableness and put you together. And I think that's
Right,
what's really important.
right, right.
So,
Exactly.
Angie, I love our conversations. I really appreciate all of your insight and all that you've brought to the interview. I just think there's a lot of knowledge that you have about the disability community, and how you live your life is so amazing because you just have this positive outlook and you use your disability as a strength. And that's something that I really hope a lot of people can gain from listening to this, and that it's okay to just say hello, right? And use those seconds, those minutes, and cherish the moments that we have. So I just want to thank you so much for being a part of the interview. You did all the talking. I only asked you a couple questions, but I love the conversation. So I just kind of wanted to let it flow because it was so important to hear what you had to say. And you have such an amazing story to tell. And I just thank you so much for coming on my show. Is there anything else you want to leave our guests with today before you go?
Just one other thing, and that would be, don't ever compare yourself to anyone but yourself, because that's where we all get in trouble. When you compare yourself to another human being and their strengths and their weaknesses, as opposed to your strengths and your weaknesses, disability or no disabilities, that's when you let yourself down. So just try to be the best version of you and keep doing you to the best of your own ability, and go set the world on fire, people. You can do it.
All right, Angie. Well, thank you so much for your time today. We will go ahead and share Angie's information with the video. Make sure you connect with the SIL, either your local SIL, Center for Independent Living, or even the one here in Jacksonville. I'm super connected with the SIL here in Jacksonville, and I love all they do for the community. And there's lots of upcoming projects that we're also working on. So if you would like to get involved, we encourage you to reach out to us. Let us know how you want to get involved, and we can definitely get you connected. So thanks so much for joining us on Wheel Life Connections today. We look forward to connecting with you guys again really soon.